Welcome to SoundBreaker. In today's episode, we're talking to somebody that I admire and admire his latest venture, which is absolutely amazing. We're going to talk all about that. Gregory Hirschhorn, Gregory from New York, who is also the founder and the CEO of Too Lost. Gregory, pleasure to have you on the show. If you don't mind, just give us a quick line on who you are for our listeners who might not be familiar with you, and then we'll dive into it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Bob, for having me. I'm Gregory Hirschhorn. I'm as Bob introduced me, the co-founder and CEO of Too Lost. I've been a music professional my entire career. Started my journey in the industry running a record label, spent some time in the major label system. And then about 7 or so years ago, I started Too Lost, which is now a fast growing leading music distribution company based in the United States.
I would say one of the fastest
Probably
growing.
this right now.
Yes, independent
Artist-
distribution company. Yes, one of the fastest. And you didn't have a huge, long history in the business. Why? Because you're a young entrepreneur who's driven, obviously, by a lot of things. I just want to go back a bit to your teenage years,
Sure.
which wasn't too far from where you are now. What really led you into the music? Were you part of a band? Your parents into the music? Were the executives in the business? What really led you to take that path,
I was
even
very
during
fortunate.
your years in college?
Yeah. Actually, my parents and my family isn't as musically inclined as probably a lot of my colleagues here at Two Lost who have come from music backgrounds and families embedded in music. I got really fascinated by music. Well, it starts as I think everyone does as a fan, right? I think like probably everyone else in this industry, I'm a big fan of music. I love and admired so many artists over the years, and I think that always gets people really excited about the idea of working in something that they're passionate about. And it's always a dream, and making it a reality is the difficult part. I think where I started my, I guess, career, so to speak, less of just being a fan, I had actually been very fortunate to go to a school with so many amazing creatives, and I wanted to figure out how I can be involved creatively with not much musical training. I got really fascinated with sound engineering, mixing. We built recording studios. I went to a boarding school, so finding time to, or sorry, let me rephrase that. Finding things to fill the void of time and the amount of uh, just filling things with entertaining moments at a place that at times could be feeling kind of lonely. Music was really helpful in helping me get through those years, and yeah, just really fortunate to have so many amazing creatives around me at the time. So got into sound engineering, production, started mixing and recording. A lot of friends and peers, which then transitioned a little bit more to the internet, right? Like we were very fortunate that I'm growing up my professional career around YouTube, and 2010s you have some really awesome blogs and people
Yeah.
showcasing some amazing music online, and I got to meet a lot of people virtually and got to work with them and creatively releasing some of their records, using different distributors, and then ultimately selling that business to Sony.
Amazing. Congrats. So I guess you find your love and passion where you want to be. So
Yeah.
what led you to really be a distributor? Or should I say starting Too Lost? Because a guy like you who is young, hungry, and entrepreneur doesn't get involved in something because of a hunch. It's like, oh, I love the business. Just want no.
Sure.
You've seen a gap. You've seen something there that you said, you know what? Nobody's doing it, and this is what I'm going to be doing, and that's what really we're going to be focused on. Too Lost. What's differentiated from, should I say, hundreds of thousands of distributors
Sure.
worldwide that legitimate ones.
Yeah. Hundreds of thousands is a lot. I mean, I guess there's
Thousands. No, I
thousands
said thousands.
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 There's
Thousands.
hundreds of thousands of record labels and artists too, I guess. But yes, it's
Yes.
a
Yes.
competitive industry in general. I
Yeah.
think what led me to distribution was, at my time, where I departed from the major label system, and Sony had just acquired AWOL, which was filling a really interesting void in the industry, which was this, kind of, I think it's leaning more now towards a record label, but at the time was, this hybrid solution that can essentially solve for artists that are maybe a little bit too large or bigger than the DIYs could service, but were maybe still in the earlier stages of their careers. And as they transitioned up, AWOL's pitch was they could essentially help them along that journey in different tiers. And I felt like this tiered style of distribution, although there are more companies doing it now, and you probably even see in the news, like CD Baby just announced they're starting their services business. I think AWOL just created a new fund to power some creators. I think a lot of people are leaning towards this again, but I think we were very early in the idea that hey, there's a lot of these DIY solutions out there. TuneCore, is growing. DistroKid is growing. There's still solutions that solve for that. There isn't really a now that AWOL has now joined the major label system, an independent that is ultimately providing a hybrid solution where they can service DIY clients. Then as they move up the ladder, be able to offer more service and label services and higher tier servicing to the folks that need it. And so I went in with Two Lost with the expectation that hey, we're going to build the best DIY service, and hopefully as artists grow within that DIY service, they're going to be able to remain clients of Two Lost and not have to sell their rights and sell their ownership and move into a major label, conglomerate infrastructure. They can continue to operate independently and utilize our staff and our resources, our capital, our infrastructure as they need it. So, which by the way is a really ambitious thing that I didn't really, I think, fully realize at the time. I think there was this white space, there's this opportunity with the AWOL exit to build something, but it was very ambitious because at the core, there are two different offerings, right? An Orchard versus a DistroKid are very, they might seem similar on the external, facing side of the business to the fact they're both distributors, but they're servicing very different parts of the market. So building a hybrid distributor that can service both sides of the market is a really ambitious thing. Again, more companies are doing it now, but I think the benefit of Two Lost is we've been doing it since the inception of our organization. We built out our product, our technology, our infrastructure, our team. Everything around the business has been orchestrated to solve for that.
Amazing. I mean, yes, we're at a time where there's a lot of distribution companies, new ones popping up, others being sold, being consolidated to other bigger companies. As you see the consolidation trend that's been happening lately in the business with independent
I
distributors of
also
being,
say though, Bob, that there's probably less competition, or at least it feels like it now than there was when I first started the business 7 years ago. I think there has
yes,
been, because of that consolidation, a lot of these companies, when they sell, I mean, they might have bursts of hunger, right? Like they sell their business, they maybe have an earnout. The leadership team wants to make the most of that earnout and,
yeah,
go more. But a lot of the times they start to dwindle and they start to fade. And I think the larger organization that acquires them has its own priorities and there's bureaucracy and red tape, and they end up not
yeah,
doing much. So you might hear the pitch, oh, we just sold our business to a major where we have more
hmm,
resource now. We have more opportunity to invest in you. And I always find that to be not as true. I think that if anything, we're seeing less competitive, deal making for, a lot of the artists we're talking to. We're seeing it's not a great thing for competition when that happens. I do think some companies that have had exits recently. I'll bring up Downtown, for example, with Version. I think that's good for the industry. I think when situations like that happen, there might be more redundancies that are removed and better resources and better focus on artists and labels, and I think that could be great. It really depends, though. But in short, I think there's actually less competition now than there was 7 years ago.
hmm,
And it's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It's just I think it's just the reality. I think a lot of
hmm,
VC funded distributors have kind of dwindled out, and the non profitable, unsustainable organizations are starting to be there's starting to be less of that. And I think there's also less investment into those types of DIY distributors that aren't necessarily built for profit and have kind of built a good business plan or model in their organization. So, if anything, the sustainable options, the ones that have been around for a while, the ones that some of them have consolidated, there's a lot of competition with those. But I'll rephrase and summarize the whole thing here. The companies that I compete with today are the same companies that I competed with 7 years ago.
wow. Something I would ask towards the end of the show, but I figured our competition led to it, is I'm sure you're on the radar of a lot of companies,
Sure.
and I'm sure, something, I don't know if you had offers coming in from bigger companies that say, hey, we want to want
All
you
the
to join
time.
us to be,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Is it something that on your, how should I say, on your to-do list or not yet?
Maybe not ever. I mean, I think in short, we're always going to view any proposals
Yeah.
strategically. I have a board. I have to make sure I do my fiduciary duty of ensuring that we're bringing any proposals to the board.
Mhm.
A lot of strategic interest. I think probably every other day I get inbounded from a private equity firm or a music company. I mean, for 7 years, I didn't have any outside investment until recently. In February, I brought on our
Amazing.
outside capital, and it was a really strategic decision. I mean, we spent a lot of time focusing on who the right partners would be and what they could do for the business and how they could help our clients and our staff and make sure it was beneficial and not just a like a little liquidity event. I think we really are building this for the long haul. And look, I'm young. The business is young. Um, we're growing and we're a big company, but it's very small relative to what it could be. And I think because of that, it's too early in the journey to necessarily decide where we're gonna exit
Mhm.
this thing to. That's not really my. I don't wake up in the morning and think, how am I going to get a major label to spend as much money as possible in my business? I think some distributors do operate that way, and I just don't think it's the best point of focus for the time now. I think it's how do we make the Two Loss platform better? How do we service as many clients as we can the right ways? How can we craft the best deals for our clients? How can we market releases to the best of our ability? And that's the stuff I want to spend my time focusing on. And TA, our new private equity partners, that's what they care about as well. They want us to grow this business. They want us to invest in the right artists and the right labels. And I think that's the alignment that I was looking for in a partner.
Mhm.
Yes, in short, I mean, we're a strategic asset for the larger industry. I think most people look at us that way. And I think there's a lot of interest in independent distribution, as you probably see from all this consolidation at the moment. And what it
Yes.
to me is there's
Yes.
going to be more majors in 10 years, right? There's going to be, the Warners, the Sonys, Universals, they'll be here, they'll be around. But, BMG and Concord is super exciting for the independent community. I think that's a new major force. And Primary Wave and Cobalt, that's another one. Create Music Group, they're growing, immensely.
Amazingly.
They're going
Yes.
to
Yes.
do more acquisitions and more,
Yeah.
mergers. And I think there's a lot of really big independent organizations. There's only going to be more of that. The fragmentation is a good thing because it means more optionality for artists and labels, and it keeps us on our toes too. It needs, requires us to be more competitive, and in order to grow, make better deals for clients. And
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about that and how
sure,
artists make the better choice and how the business, where do you see the business 10 years from now? And your business, I would say, oh, you know what? Let me not go too far. Let's say,
sure, sure.
I would say a couple of years from now. 10 years is too long. Maybe 5 years ago, we could use the word 10 years. Now, 2 to 3 years. Where do
Okay.
you see the business and Too Lost from now? And with the rapid, I would say, change in the music business itself, I feel, my personal opinion, been in the business for a long time, started from the physical days and watch how things transitions and the attitude of the business. And I feel the music business right now at a crossroads. Sure, all type of excuses comes in, AI taking royalties
Sure.
and that, which is really not it just another way, another form. As you see, the Oscars just added a new genre to their
There's
list.
always new innovation and disruption, and it
Yes,
normally
yeah,
normalizes.
correct, yeah. And where do you see, first of all, how does that plays in your day-to-day operation and the future plans, of Two Lost, and I'm sure other leaders of other independent companies, successful companies like yours, so face that and how they see their strategy and how they point where they're going, because there is a change. Is streaming uh, going to be the play for monetization? Is going to be the main play 3 4 years from now, or is it really going to be in new ways of monetization, like what happened every couple of decades? A new way of monetization comes into play. I know it's a couple of questions mixed up
No,
in
no, no,
my
it's
own
good.
opinion.
I
Yeah,
like these combos. We think about this stuff a lot. My co-founder, if you talk to him, would tell you that I put him to bed on phone calls where I speak at length about these topics with him. I think in short, I'll start with the consumption aspect, your question about streaming, and then we'll go
yeah,
into AI stuff. I think,
yeah,
um, yes, every couple decades you see a shift in the medium of consumption in the music industry, right?
correct. Yeah,
LPs and vinyl to cassettes, CDs, to digital downloads to streaming.
yeah,
I It's a hard question. Like I like to think maybe AR or some sort of virtual reality or some other medium of consumption will exist one day. Streaming's pretty great. I won't say it's necessarily the peak of musical innovation, but I think as a consumer, forgetting about monetization of streaming and forget about if Spotify's paying the right amounts or any of that. Like truly from like a consumption standpoint. And again, this is someone that has a vinyl collection, loves the novelty of listening to things physically and owning your music, right? the ease and access of streaming is a wonderful thing. It's like an infinite jukebox. It's a really fascinating consumer product, and I think most people generally enjoy it more than any other previous method of consumption. Right? It's really accessible. I can be on a run on the West Side Highway here in New York, listening to all the songs in the world that I want. I could be in my car and choosing. It's a really really special thing. I think streaming's great for consumption. I think it doesn't fill the entire pie for a lot of fans. I think you still have live experiences. You have consumption through things like vinyl, and if you care as a fan about compensating the artist you're listening to, there's other ways to do that as well. But I think truly like streaming is maybe peak from a listenership perspective because of just the infinite access of music. Again, regardless if it's priced correctly. From the monetization, I think monetization follows consumption. I think where the fans go, the money follows. And unfortunately, if streaming is the peak for unfortunately, he's made the wrong way of saying it. I do think there is a ceiling to the ability to monetize through different mediums if consumption is the absolute best way to consume, right? So I think figuring out how to expand royalty collection through rate increases, through access of streaming in new territories, Spotify expanding its services into different regions, new streaming services, so they can ultimately diversify listenership. I think all of those are methods to increase monetization, but I think streaming will ultimately be where we're at for the foreseeable future, especially if we're talking about 2 to 10 years. I think there will be new monetization opportunities though. So something that we focus on a lot at Two Lost is we talk about services like Peloton a lot, right? We have a very interesting piece of technology there, right? An electronic bike, an opportunity
Correct. Yeah.
be focusing on fitness and being able to listen to music as part of that experience. There's a monetization aspect to that, right? There's other things. We need to deal with this company called Rhythm, which is a Discord bot system, right? People are communicating on Discord. They want to listen to music. There's a license for that, right? So there are other DSPs and services that essentially can remit royalties that are not dedicated streamers. And there'll be more of that, I believe. And AI going into that as well will only increase that. There'll be new licenses, new functions, karaoke machines, models, ways to accelerate the ways fans connect. A fan connects with their music, and I think that will introduce new licensing opportunities. AI, though, has other, on the non-consumption side of things, I think implications and concerns. A lot of it comes from creation, right? I think how how that's policed from a compliance standpoint, how folks utilize that in their creative endeavors. I'm probably not the best person to answer that. I think a lot of conversation is happening around that though at the moment. I think the publishing world has spent a lot of time focused on this as well because people are just using AI in their sessions now. Like who owns the copyright? How is that monetized? I don't think it's going away. I do think a little bit more regulation and compliance around how it's compensated and how its owned will evolve in the next couple of years. And I think people we're seeing fans. I guess my last point on this: fans don't love AI in music as much as I think people thought they would. I think people feel a human connection to music. It's not just sonically, is the song good? Is who,
Hmm.
what's the story? Why did they make it? All that's part of the creative experience of listening to music, creating music. It goes away with AI. So I don't know if fans want AI as much as I think the people that are making this AI music think they do. And I think it's novel right now, but I think it will normalize like any other medium of creation in the next couple of years.
I mean, live performances is up, and as far as I know, the DJ business is massive right now.
Yeah,
Massive,
yeah, yeah.
huge. Like so many DJs, males, females, from all walks of life.
Most of the Wall Street
Huge.
money that no one's really talking about because a lot of people are focused on independent distribution and rights because it's safe, but a lot of money is going into live spaces right now. I mean, Live Nation's
Big
absolutely
time.
crushing it. Like again, monopoly concerns or
Yes, yes,
trade
yeah.
practices aside, like these are big, big businesses, and it's because people
Correct.
want to experience live music because it's more human. And I also have noticed a big trend in New York of I was talking to my friend about this last night. People buying like flip phones and going to concerts without their phones because people just really want to be in it again, which was a huge shift from just like a year ago, where I'd
Yeah.
go to a concert, everyone had their phones up, and it felt very distracting. And now you see artists asking people not to even bring phones to these experiences anymore. So I think that's only going to continue to, you know, there's a big connection between live music and consumption, and also live moments. I use like the Michael Jackson biopic as an example here. It's like
Yeah.
you have that movie come out. His streaming absolutely
Yes.
has a pop, a big surge, and it's because people are reconnecting to one of the greatest artists in the world, but are reconnecting to him because they're seeing there's so much going on, right? There's
Yes.
TikTok, Netflix, so many distractions. They see a movie and they're like, wow, I want to relive that through my own experience with MJ, and I can do that through streaming. And Michael Jackson's not going to unfortunately go on tour anytime soon, but that's another live adjacent experience where people can go to the theaters, watch a movie, and then go home and stream. And I think same thing with live music. I'm seeing Noah Khan at Wrigley Field in July. Right, I just got tickets for that last night, and you know I'm going to go to that concert. I'll probably listen to Noah Khan on the way over there, and I'll definitely listen to him after the concert as well. And I probably wouldn't have been. I mean, he's in my playlist, but I'm not going to have a dedicated listening session to the guy if I didn't go to that concert because there's so much other music going around. I've heard the albums, I love it, but it's fun to experience new stuff. But that's a nice moment to kind of rekindle the experience that I had live.
Correct.
With my phone with streaming. So I think that's a really big aspect of the defense against AI as well. Is artificial intelligence, like for now, hasn't gotten to the point where the live experience side of it is ultimately anything close to the live experience you'd have with real artists.
Well, I know one thing that AI helped catalogs, real catalog, prices or the value goes up really to the
For
roof.
sure, for sure. The
Yeah,
training
catalog.
opportunities and modeling opportunities around
Not
licensing,
just that, just the value of listening to original music.
that
You
too,
know.
that too.
Yes.
And look, I think AI, when used intelligently for like business analysis and strategic understandings of your catalog, is really exciting. We launched this Insights tool at Two Lost. I'm not sure if I know you have some catalog with us. I'm not sure if you used it yet. It's called Insights. It's on the dashboard. It essentially suggests better ways to optimize your streaming, your advertising campaigns, better understanding the earnings and collection patterns across your catalog. Like we couldn't launch that at scale a year ago if it wasn't for artificial intelligence. Like that is a really helpful, exciting application of AI that helps catalog owners, that helps artists make better decisions on how to deploy their ad spend on their campaigns for their new release, right? And
Yes.
that to me is like, although it's not necessarily the creative aspect of where AI is interfering, I do think that is an opportunity for artists that maybe don't have as much business savvy on ad campaigns and ad strategies to
Mhm.
leverage AI to make better business decisions. So there's pros and cons to all this stuff, but I think I'm optimistic. I like to think that the outcome in the next 2 to 5 years from these AI implications will be positive for artists. I think there's going to be new revenue streams. There's going to be a little bit more of an urge for society to steer towards real artists, real human
Yeah.
creators. And I think the AI intelligence, the ability for the things like our Insights product to elevate how people view their catalogs, monetize their catalogs, will greatly increase opportunity. So and just understandings around their catalog. So when people look to sell their catalogs in the future, they know they're not getting priced incorrectly. They know the true value. They know how to deploy capital properly when we provide them with advances to invest in their careers. And that stuff excites me too, because I think for so long there's been a knowledge gap in the industry, not because artists aren't intelligent enough to understand this stuff, but just because there's a lot of like niche industry mafioso attitudes around information and withholding access and gatekeeping. And I think AI definitely levels the playing field a bit in that regard, and that excites me.
As a CEO of Two Lost and hands-on active CEO, day-to-day operation, you'll
Sure.
see all the numbers and the figures of streaming. Not going back to the same question, but you said something. You said, "Hey, maybe the future of monetization and streaming is in, could be, VR, which is we call it now. What do you call it? Meta, metaverse. We call
Sure,
it.
sure.
Yeah. So could it be the future of monetization where it's going to be more lean into it in front of our eyes, but really nobody's paying, which is, I would say, on a UGC platform, social. So you could take UGC, social, and virtual reality, which is metaverse, and that will be the future. And that's where AI comes in, where people have, because the younger generation always wants something to call the experiential. Everybody wants the experience. Something the music business kind of really not paid attention to it for many years. To them, it was all from radio to just listen to streaming, just listen, you know, plug
Yeah,
and play,
yeah,
just listen, pay and listen, and that's it, nothing else. And when TikTok came into the equation, it changed the whole. It kind of tilted the whole scale. Like, wait a second, what's going on here? Everybody
yeah.
started going there. Why? Because young kids could have fun. The follower became the creator, and it's easy to create, to connect with fans, to share, to promote, to monetize.
Sure,
So there's
sure.
so many aspects to it. So that kind of grew to the new trend of younger people, which they are hungry. They're looking for something else where they can share, create, participate, promote, monetize, all of these fun things to do. And okay, older generation for me, do I want to do this? No, I just want to listen. Watch? Yeah, I
Yeah.
could watch too. Why not? But would I participate as active as a 14-year-old or 15 or 12-year-old or 16-year-old? No, I won't be. Or 10-year-old, create these fun videos and be part of it,
Oh,
whether
you've,
it's
you've
half
done
AI, half,
karaoke
you know?
before, right? Like you've been up on a at a bar at 2 a.m. probably singing your favorite song with your friends. Like I think this is their version of that. Look, I'm not on
Yes.
TikTok. You won't
Yeah.
see me dancing to my favorite song on TikTok, but I get why kids like that. I do think offline experiences are increasing, and I think people are a little bit. There's this attitude of like detoxing from digital to an extent, right? I think a lot of
Yeah.
people feel like they may have be overdoing it with screen time and look, I think that's a good thing. I think we need more kids outside and going to concerts and listening to great music and finding it, from their own discovery, not necessarily being
Yeah.
suggested to listen to something from an influencer.
Yeah.
I think there's a balance, right? At the same time, yes, in short, I think all these digital experiences are great for artists, are great for labels, and great for fans. I think there's never been more ways to connect with your favorite artist, to be influenced, to discover new music that you may have never found if you weren't online. So I think all that's great. It's always been iterative, though. It's not necessarily super new. I mean, the blog era we were alluding to before, forums and YouTube, and then Instagram and TikTok, and eventually, yeah, sure, metaverse.
Yeah.
I think they're all just different ways to essentially discover things. And look, for me, I'm in New York City. There's 8 million people around me that can tell me what song to listen to without having to go online, right? But for someone that lives in the middle of the country and where the closest neighbor is 30 miles away, being able to log into TikTok and find a song that you may have never discovered before, if your local record shop only has 10 different types of artists, is really cool and really exciting, and an
Yes.
opportunity for artists to break into subcultures and regions and opportunistic areas that like they may have never been able to break into in any other time in history.
Absolutely. Gregory, everybody has a recipe, and a two lost. Obviously, the things I seen, an active leadership, hands on, day to day, an amazing team, down to earth. They all sync together. Everybody works together, and that's a very unique thing that many, I would say, operations or new operations don't have that. And your team,
Sure.
obviously, I don't know how you picked your team or how the team came together, but are
Careful.
really amazing, really amazing. They're all in tune, everybody on top of their game,
Cool.
and down to earth. They speak to everybody, phone calls, emails. Now, hey, I'm going to say this to everybody. This is not a sponsored thing. I'm not getting paid, but it's hands-on experience because I spoke to them. I know the guys, and also your tech. So everybody has a recipe. What is your secret recipe between this, the active hands-on leadership, the team, and technology?
Sure. And that goes back to our larger thesis about being a hybrid solution, right? So there's the balance of the proper amount of servicing. It's great to hear that you've had a good experience with that. I'm going to let your account manager after this call know that he's doing a good job and he's getting a bonus. Maybe we'll see. We'll see how the rest of the year goes. And Yeah, I mean, carefully, selecting our team is a really important part of the job. I mean, we have a small company, all things considered. For the music industry, it's on the bigger side. Probably about 100 or so folks now work full time at Two Lost across our different offices. But um, handpicked over 7 years, very selective, people that genuinely care about the artists and labels they're working with. And look, all distributors, I like to think all good distributors try to build the right teams around them. You might
Yeah,
see things online, even about Two Lost, where people have had bad experiences. We're managing hundreds of thousands of artists and labels. Most people in distribution that are experiencing, working with their distributors, aren't necessarily going to go out and leave a 5-star review if it's as expected, right? Like Bob, if I asked you right now, did you leave a 5-star review on Two Lost for Trustpilot for your experience with your account? But what I'm getting at is most people don't, right? And every 500,000 songs we deliver, if 2 or 3 reviews come in and they're 1 star, I think it gives a little bit of a sting to the overall team. What I've helped the
Yes.
team realize is, hey, if we have a 99.9% success rate here, we're doing a fabulous job, right? Because I've worked in music companies my whole career. Not as long as your career, but I've been in the major label system. I've seen when you have 10 clients how lackluster the performance around the larger team's efforts can be. And if we're managing hundreds of thousands of artists correctly, and one artist feels like there's some sort of expectation that wasn't met, let's try to meet them where they are. But look, not everyone's super reasonable. Not everyone necessarily can expect the same level of servicing if it's not necessarily a partnership. So I think the human aspect is definitely just an iterative,
Yes.
careful selection of the right people that have the right attitudes and the right passion and ambition. We have a lot of young professionals here too, which helps. I think they're really hungry in their careers. A lot of 30 somethings and late 20s and people that are just getting started in the early ages of their career, and they
Yes.
really want to prove something. And I think that's really helpful when you're working with a lot of different artists because it has to keep you on your toes and keep you working hard. So when it comes to the technology, though, that's I think where we take a lot of pride in building and iterating quickly. I think a lot of our competitors had systems that were built in the early 2000s. They sold and they never really evolved much. Maybe here and there they'll do a UI update, they'll clean up some of the look and feel to modernize it, but they're not really structurally built at the same capacity as us. And I just think a lot of it was dollar age. Like we just started our business later in the game and gave us the opportunity to kind of start from a scratch, from a position of this is where the industry is today versus a CD baby, for example. I'm not going to say call someone out, but their name kind of asks for it. They're built for the physical distribution era, and they had to
Yeah.
transition to digital. Whereas we started with digital, and we just from a novelty perspective introduced physical, for example, right? It's less than 2% of the overall market. It's not a big part of the market. Digital is the focus. So if you are building technology today, it's a little bit
Yes.
easier than evolving infrastructure and outdated technology from the 90s and the early 2000s. So I think that's a big part of it as well. But a lot of what we build in technology, I just want to add, comes from feedback from our clients, both
Nice.
solicited and unsolicited, to
Yes.
our account managers and to our reps. And we have a really great pipeline and process of feeding our development team and our product team with, hey, these things need to be engineered because our clients are asking for this. And I
Yeah.
think that gets people really excited when they say, hey, I'd really love to be able to see a transparent dashboard where it displays the stream rate by country, by store and service every single month. So I don't have to do the calculation myself. Boom, we push that out in 2 weeks, and it's been available now for every single client for months. And that's every single product. And another one we just launched last week is this YouTube conflict resolutions process, right? We had a fund come to us and say, hey, we understand that you have to manage our content on YouTube, but we have a lot of content that we acquire that we move over from other distributors into Two Lost, and we're nervous that some of this stuff is in ownership conflict on YouTube. Can we have more transparency into this? So at scale, it's pretty difficult to offer hundreds of thousands of clients access to our proprietary YouTube systems. So instead, we built a custom dashboard that provides all the ownership conflicts for their individual accounts, an ability for them to assert their rights, dispute claims as they come in, kind of manage this themselves, knowing that we'll manage it for them. But if they want to be expedited, they want to have a priority, or if they want to hire their own staff to do it themselves, they have the access and tools to do it. It's that perfect example of the hybrid servicing mixed with DIY. Like you can build your own team, you build your own staff around your Two Lost account. They can manage it, or they can have our team manage it, and it kind of fits both molds. Then, right? Like employee, highly employed, big record labels can use Two Lost and don't necessarily need to be paying us a fee to service their accounts, or an artist that really wants that hands-on expertise can do a deal with us and get that from us. So, but the software essentially would give them the ability to do some of this themselves too. Is really that's our
Amazing.
goal.
Amazing. No, I mean, really amazing. And speaking back to the team again that you have at Two Lost is, back in the day, in the vinyl days or physical business days, labels, independent labels truly were together as a team, as a baseball team.
Sure.
Everybody together. Everybody knew who's that artist, what they release, what they have. When there's somebody comes in through the door, there's a new, they knew, everybody in the company knew. In the digital days, everybody have their own and everybody focus on one, just one track mind. Like that's it. I'm focused that way.
Yeah.
There's no connection. And I feel where you have what really made it, yeah, actually everything stands out at Two Loss is everybody's involved. Everybody knows who's a new client, who's they're releasing, big catalog, small catalog, new artists, independent. So that's really makes it very, very unique.
I'll just
And
add to that too, and thank you. This is very complimentary. I really appreciate it. The major label system had to be a little bit more reactive, right? Like they were probably somewhat overwhelmed when digital became the most important medium for consumption. Their teams were built in different eras, and they had a lot of really experienced operators that had been there for decades. But this industry's changed, and I think it can be very overwhelming structurally if you have a lot of content, a lot of releases, a lot of high-profile clients,
yes,
and not enough bandwidth or incentive, and your employment agreements are modeled for market share in mind, but you need to focus on developing these acts. It doesn't, there's a lot of friction. I think for us, again, opportunistic at the right time when we launched this
yeah,
business, I think we were able to structure the business around a thesis that still holds true. And because of that, as we scale out the organization, and I'm setting up the budget for 2026, and I say, hey, these are many. We need to invest more into A&R. We need to do more into marketing. Like the teams are already set up in a way that it's very easy to pour gasoline on the existing fires and stay on top of the right talent and the developing acts. We can deploy the right amount of resource there. It isn't a constant. Like I don't come into the office and feel super overwhelmed. Like, what do we got to do today? How do we just? It's a pretty calm energy for a company that's servicing hundreds of thousands of clients because I think we've from an organization standpoint set the business up the right way.
what's next for Two Lost? I would say
Yeah,
to look for in 2026, even though we come into the middle of it, but of
sure.
26. But yes,
So we just launched our developer APIs and our white label enterprise solutions. I think that's going to be a big focus. As Fuga now transitions into the universal system, and there aren't as many. Revelator just got sold to Warner.
to
There aren't
Warner,
as
yeah,
many solutions out there in the independent market. Our goal was to quickly push something out there that could be a solution for folks coming out of those systems that want to remain independent. And I say independent as a company that is not owned by the major
yes,
labels, right? Like I think a lot of
got it,
people like to pretend that the Orchard and Virgin and ADA and whatnot are independent. They're not. They can service independent artists the same way Spotify can service independent artists and Universal can license Drake's catalog. But let's just remember that independent at the core just means not owned by the major labels. For now, those are three. It used to be five. It used to be four. It could be
yeah,
five again in the future. But truly independent organizations, not owned by the major labels. There aren't
absolutely,
many back-end technologies right now available in the market. So I think our goal is to build upon what I think is the best hybrid solution right now for the DIY and label service sector, and introduce a B2B technology to allow record labels to build their own technology using our back end. So that developer API is launched. It's available. You can go on Two Lost and go to our footer and click developer API and sign up and opt in immediately. Our white label product has also been available for several months now. We have probably about 100 or so large scale record labels and distributors that are currently using that technology, which is awesome. So I think a combined focus of introducing more enterprise solutions to solve for another new gap in the industry, and as A&Rs come out of the major label system and want to build their own record labels and are looking for capital and infrastructure and want to have maybe some servicing assistance, this solution is great for them. And for record labels that have been around for 20 plus years that want to find a new home to better house their content, to have the best in class technology and servicing, we're here for them as well. So that's a big focus for the team. I think continued investment into our existing roster of clients and new clients coming in is super important. Obviously now that we have TA and Gold State on our cap table, two fabulous partners. For context, TA Associates is one of the oldest private equity firms in the country, around since like the 1960s, raised billions and billions of dollars and invest very intelligently into very few. I think they do like 10 platform investments a year.
yes,
They are amazing partners, very involved, and have a really solid thesis on investing into the independent sector. And we're helping them deploy the money correctly to the right labels, the right artists, and that's super exciting. I mean, they have a lot of capital and power and smart people behind them, and I like to think we have the smartest cap table in the music business now. And we also, again, from a capital perspective, TA has enough capital for us to compete with the majors, right? Like you look at a Warner or a Sony or Sony Music and a Universal market cap. And you look at how much TA has under active management. It's a very similar size organization. So we have this really amazing opportunity to be a small, nimble independent that has the backbone and infrastructure of a massive global private equity firm. And then Charles Goldstock, who sits on our board, and the Gold State team is fantastic. They're one of the most active catalog acquirers in the industry. Charles is a real bona fide professional. He's worked with Clive Davis in the early days, ran Arista with him, and was one of the presidents of BMG, the original BMG back in the day. Was one, CEO of Touch Tunes, which is also a TA investment, and he's an awesome expert to have in our organization. A great commercial partner, runs an amazing catalog business, and I think the mix of that smart capital, strategic insiders, and really smart, savvy investors around what I believe is, again, the best technology in the independent infrastructure game. I think we have a really great opportunity to continue to expand our roster, invest more into independent artists and independent labels, acquire some fantastic catalogs and content from folks that are looking to exit and buy a house in Nantucket or retire on a nice island somewhere. And I think we are really capable of competing on a major scale now, which is super exciting to me. While still kind of retaining the independent bones and thesis that we started the business on 7 years ago.
Amazing. An advice before we say goodbye, an advice for independent artists who, once they explore the independent path of distribution, and an independent entrepreneur, similar to yourself, but who's starting in the business.
Sure. I'll start with the artist. Keep focusing on making great music. I mean, it can be very distracting when all this AI crap and new technology and people like me talking about all these different software solutions that could probably bore the crap out of most of the creatives we talk to. It can be really distracting. New distractions are coming up every single day already. I think remembering at the end of the day, fans like myself, like Bob, like all of us, we want to listen to great music. We want that connection. Sonically, everyone's interests are different, right? And there isn't necessarily a good song or a bad song subjectively, but I think human music is super, super important culturally. It is really important as a society for us to continue to put out amazing creative inventions. And I want our artists to, not just two lost artists, but all artists to remember that at the end of the day, like, you're the most important part of this industry, right? If we didn't have the music, there's no real reason for Bob and I to be talking right now. So I think, in short, focus on making the best music you could possibly make, stuff that you're proud of. And I like to think that the larger industry will work out the kinks. And, we're in the early days of digital. If you look at other industries like manufacturing cars, outside of Tesla, making electric vehicles, cars have have stayed the same most
Yes.
since the first car came out. And music has changed so much. It's so disruptive. And I just think at the end of the day, just like cars, people need music, and there's going to always be a demand for that. So keep making great music for independent entrepreneurs and for entrepreneurs that work, or let me rephrase that, for executives that work in the major label music systems that are potentially looking to become independent. There's never been a better time. There's more capital in this part of the industry than ever before. There's great infrastructure solutions. Two Loss is a great one, but there's plenty of other great companies you can work with to build your business. And I just think if there was ever a time to take the risk of maybe leaving a comfortable 9-to-5 salary to try your hand at building something remarkable in the independent sector, now's the time. I think it'll only get easier to compete. I think there's a lot of content, but there's a lot of demand for content, and a lot of people want to listen to music, and there's more access to be able to listen to music than ever before. And when you have the right amount of capital, the right amount of infrastructure, good operators, and a lot of motivated artists looking to release music consistently, you have a lot of opportunity to provide value and utilize those resources, those opportunities to build great businesses. So I'd say take the swing. Bob can tell you it could be a really fruitful way to build an awesome business. If you
Absolutely
distribute with Two Lost, you can hit me up as well, and I'm happy to set you guys up with an account. And here's the sales pitch, Bob. We'll give you 3 months free if you move over to Two Lost and
That's it.
move your catalog over.
That's it. What an amazing interview, I would have to say. Extremely motivating, inspiring, and very, very insightful. Gregory, really thank you for your time, my friend, at Two Lost. I know you're busy. And thank you for joining us here today at SoundBreaker. And for our listeners, please follow us and make sure to follow us on socials. Again, thanks again, Gregory. Much
Awesome.
appreciated.
Thank you, Bob. It was great,
And
great being here.
see you next time. Absolutely.
Talk to you soon.
Likewise. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share the SoundBreaker podcast. And if you are joining us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.